Few filmmakers have been more influential on me as a movie buff than Quentin Tarantino. He is my favorite director of all time, and I am of the opinion that he has an absolute flawless filmography. And today we finally got news about his 10th and final film. Let's discuss.
I watch so you don't have to.
That used to be the thing about America, was the fact that Hollywood that's what we did better than anybody else in the world. We told a really good story, you know. We're the worst at it now, as far as I'm concerned. So we don't tell a story, we tell a situation. A good majority of movies that come out, all right, you pretty much know everything you're going to see in the movie by the first 10 or 20 minutes. Now that's not a story. A story is something that constantly unfolds.
Before I get started, I'd like to kindly ask that you hit the like button, and please subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.
So, pretty please, with sugar on top. Clean the fucking car.
When you talk about modern entertainment as much as I do, and the industry is in the creatively bankrupt state that it is currently in, typically it's very difficult for me to get excited about anything new. I typically have to rely on the old guard, classic directors, to give me what I'm looking for in a cinematic experience. And there's no one from that old guard that I trust more than Quentin Tarantino. Not just because of the films he creates, but also because, like me, he's been very vocal and unapologetically critical of a lot of modern cinema.
If my answers frighten you, Vincent, then you should cease asking scary questions.
He said many things, like the current era of movies is one of the worst in Hollywood history, something I happen to agree with. He's talked about how ideology has taken precedence over storytelling in modern films, something else I also happen to agree with. He even went as far as to take a slight jab at the current superhero movie obsessed climate that we find ourselves in.
I'm quite keen on comic books.
Recently, when he was asked if he would ever direct a Marvel film, he responded, "I would have to be a hired hand to do those things. I'm not a hired hand, and I'm not looking for a job. Like a boss." He's basically stating exactly what my issue is with the modern superhero movie. That being the lack of creative freedom for the directors who are involved with them. Once you sign up for one of those types of movies, you are now a part of a machine. You're part of a system. And Tarantino has no desire to relinquish control of a film he's directing to some studio suit somewhere.
Does he look like a bitch? What?
He's the director and he's in charge of the film, period. And that's the way it should be. And I, as an audience member, have no interest in seeing the product of a filmmaking by committee scenario. So needless to say, I have a lot of admiration for Tarantino's dedication to the art of film, because I share that same dedication and passion for the art form.
Whoa, whoa. Here I come. Oh, here I come. Oh.
Now, when Tarantino announced that he would only be directing 10 films and then retiring, as a huge fan of his, I was a little bit disappointed. Albeit for selfish reasons, because now I wouldn't be able to look forward to a new Tarantino film anymore. At the same time, I admire his dedication to quit while he is still on top of his game. That level of self-awareness and desire to preserve your own legacy is very refreshing to me. Especially when we see a lot of modern directors just taking jobs for a paycheck. And that is usually reflected in the final film.
Oh, man. I will never forgive your ass for this shit.
He only wants to make movies when he knows his heart is still 100% in it. And now we finally have some confirmation about what his 10th and final film will be. He has reportedly already written the script, and the film will be titled The Movie Critic. And the plan is to direct it this fall. Now, there aren't many details so far, but sources describe the story as being set in late 1970s Los Angeles, with a female lead at the center. Some say it's possible that the story is at least loosely based on Pauline Kael, one of the most influential movie critics of all time, and someone who Quentin Tarantino has expressed his respect for over the years. Imagine that, a director showing admiration for a film critic. We are a long way removed from that in the modern era. Now I'm going to go into a little bit of speculation of my own with what little details we have. I know Tarantino has great respect for real film criticism. He's even called it a lost art, another thing that I actually agree with. But if this movie is to be a love letter to the golden age of film criticism, in the way that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was a love letter to Hollywood in general, then I say shut up and take my money. He may even do a bit of alternate history, like we've seen him do in Inglourious Basterds, as well as Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Let me just say, nobody beat the shit out of Bruce.
Possibly showcasing how film criticism actually altered the course of film history and thus society. I think that could be interesting, especially given Tarantino's deep wealth of knowledge on the subject. One thing is for sure, we know he will always assemble a phenomenal cast, because he always does. Most likely with a mixture of Tarantino favorites as well as some new faces. Having a female lead in a Tarantino film will always also be interesting to me. Honestly, I don't think he gets enough credit for the way that he showcased real strong female characters throughout his career and in his films.
You don't have a future.
Whatever the film ends up being, I'm sure it will have its iconic Tarantino flair, with an attention to detail that is unmatched and exceptional dialogue as always. It would be interesting to see him use this movie as a meta way of delivering some commentary on his own career, perhaps drawing parallels between the fictional movies he will ultimately have in the film and his real-life filmography, and just the way that his films changed the landscape of cinema when he was first getting started. We shall see. Either way, I haven't been this excited for a film in a long time, and that has everything to do with that Tarantino name being attached to it. Truthfully, that's all they really needed to tell me to sell me on the prospect of this movie. Because I know that anytime he releases a new movie, he's going to give me an experience that reminds me of why I fell in love with movies in the first place. And I think that's exactly what film fans like myself need right now. For someone like Tarantino to rescue us from this sea of mediocrity we find ourselves in, with yet another iconic masterpiece of cinema.
I like it when somebody tells me a story, and I actually really feel that that's becoming like a lost art.
Y'all be cool. Right on.